Greetings all, welcome to the first of hopefully many of Trizon's nostalgic gaming trips. Semi-working title. What more appropriate title to reminisce over for my first online nostalgia trip than this? My first ever PS2 game. I could have done much worse, it must be said, as is pretty much a given for something branded with George Lucas's favourite little bundle of joy. This sold like sex cakes, and was eventually given the honourable platinum badge, just like the sequel would be a few yonks later. I'll get to that in no time, don't you worry. If I wasn't poor right now, I'd be scanning Amazon for it this moment. Where to begin when there was so much to say? An overview of the genre, I think. Starfighter, as you wouldn't have to be clever to figure out, puts you in a cockpit, even space or close to the ground, and gives you stuff to shoot, protect, and dodge. This is the gist of the space shooter genre. A chapter in gaming that, while occasionally awesome, Colony Wars has also been caught in my Sauron-like gaze, has mysteriously pretty much died out. Why is beyond me? Although a good guess would probably be an absence of new ideas, especially seeing as the aforementioned nostalgic gold mine, Colony Wars pretty much did everything cool one could without becoming Assassin's Creed-style monotonous repetition that defies all logic and leaves all shaking fists in the air, cursing the name of a certain developer and demanding to be told how anyone could possibly, in all sanity, think that saving the same badly voiced woman from the same four Crusaders might be called enjoyable. Perhaps nothing could ever be that bad. Again, I mean. Ubisoft is still on my list, people. Whatever the cause, I can't name a single release of a space shooter since reading OPS2, it's a magazine, some years back and noting a meh out of 10 for Battlestar Galactica. Having no knowledge of the franchise and better things to waste my money on, to this day I haven't bothered with it. If that truly was the last space shooter, then the genre didn't exactly go out with a bang, to say the least. So, Starfighter and its sequel may have been the last worthwhile games of their kind, certainly on PS2. I'll say it now, for anyone expecting me to be one of the dozens of folks doing worst games ever things, you'll be disappointed to hear these words. Starfighter is pretty smeggin' good. While not really inventive, creative or revolutionary, it was a very playable, consistently enjoyable and, on occasion, surprisingly hard blast fest. Was something clearly made to get sevens and under who like the film, which sucks donkey nostrils by the way, to buy it and fuel the cash reserves which kept the production of the next movie, even worse if you ask me, going. This piece can be rather unforgiving at times, especially if one knocks the difficulty on hard. Head-on collisions with scenery at speed can make you go from full health to last legs in an instant. And during the Protect This Fetcher missions, the Trade Federation droids have a tendency to gang rape your charge en masse. Missions aren't long, none of them lasting over 15-minute stops, but when you pwn load of AATs, celebrate with a loop-a-loop and suddenly find yourself with a sad R2 sound effect and an heartless mission failed screen, you'll find yourself taking the scissors to your Jar Jar Binks doll in no time. Although you should be doing that anyway, kids. Medium is just a good challenge, while easy is too easy, unless you happen to own my controller. The controls, even on my much abused 6-axis, are great, with lovely responses all round. Although I wish I was rich enough to get me a shiny DualShock 3 so that I could feel the rumble going up my arms again. That's Sony's fault, not the game. You only have 2 attacks, a laser thingy and 1 secondary weapon, which changes depending on which bloke you're using. That's all you need, as only the biggest adversaries require heavy ponage to enter victory fanfare states of deadness. One irritant is that you can't always come to a complete stop, and so can be left without enough room to nip around things in some of the more compact stages. Colony Wars let you stop if the need took you, and even reverse, which now that I think about it, Starfighter doesn't let you do either. Still, you'd be nitpicking, and above that, to find any other faults with the controls. The baddies I mentioned earlier include things from the movie like droid starfighters, AATs, stamps, but also a load of junk, which I believe was made just for the game, which is nice. Not one of them isn't fun to shoot, although the big lander things can only be blown up if you deliberately failed the mission, wasting your time shooting them. A feature I always find hilarious is the fact that if you shoot a fighter enough without quite killing it, while on a ground-based mission, smoke will pour out of it as it enters a death spiral, and uselessly jihads into the mud. Cocky gits like myself can make little squads of bombers all fall out of the sky at once into the delightfully hard scenery, and will continually do so whenever possible. Well, I do, anyway. The game's highlight, and a boo battle against seemingly endless swaths of mechanical ponage fodder, has loads of little bomb groups, and so my fellow sadists and I shall doubtless replay this section purely to see the little craft go spinning downwards, and just picturing a spasming droid sitting at the controls, unable to halt the rapid loss of altitude. Addictive indeed. With gameplay pretty much covered, I might as well introduce you to the main cast and give you a plot summary. The thing starts to be placed, reluctantly in my case, in the shoes of Reese, a staggeringly bland Luke Skywalker-like Nabooian swit, who, after quite randomly having a dream where he sees himself get blown up in space, gee whiz, I wonder if this will be foreshadowing something, is taken on a basic tutorial mojig by his similarly bland instructor, who is so obviously not going to survive long, he'll just be snorting whenever she makes a reference to doing something after the next few days. The next level sees you escorting Queen Amidala, or double, or whatever, to a meeting with the Trade Federation in a completely isolated armpit of space. Anyone who watches the first 5 minutes of the Phantom Menace can tell you that the Trade Federation are less trustworthy than a car salesman who deals exclusively in good value merchandise. And one of your fellow flyboys even says that it's a strange place to have a meeting, so I can only assume that the Nabooian leaders are about as blind to blatant wrongness as the Jedi Council. Sure enough, the Trade Federation ship buggers off within seconds, and a load of mercenaries make a poor attempt on Queen's life. After giving their asses a good dose of plasma-flavoured whooping, Queenie's ship nips off back to Naboo just in time for tea, and right before some bastard souped-up Uber ship fries your mentor and blows both your wings off, before flying away again mumbling something about killing you later. Woo! That went well. Thus we meet a new player, a scavenger man called Retty, or something similar. Subtitles aren't included and I'm too lazy to check Wikipedia. Anyway, he finds you and whisks you off to a friend's place to fix your ship. Said friend is a near carbon copy of your predictably inflated instructor, with another hard to remember name. I think it begins with a J. Well, she just fell out with the Trade Federation after being double-crossed, shock, by them. Returning home with plans of revenge, she's met by Nim, easily my favourite character here, because not only does he look like a cross between a wrestler and a squid, he spends the first half of the game being the biggest dickhead you can be before getting ridiculous, because he's the main guy in Force Unleashed, who I dare you not to laugh at constantly whenever he goes off on an Anakin-style sulk/rant. Of course, everyone's favourite Anakin reference should be the "I will be the most powerful Jedi ever" speech. I laugh myself to sleep with that every night. Anyway, Squidward locks Lady in a cupboard for putting him in jail at some point, and then blasts off to the awesomely badass elsewhere. Now, from here on, the plot never takes any unexpected turns, and it has anyway, and I can't be bothered to take a piss at the whole thing, so I'll leave it here. You've met everyone who matters anyway. Luke Wannabe, Dies on second level, Nemesis, the Great Scavenger Man, Generic Feisty Woman, and Squidward, Ravager of Worlds. Only Retty and Nim have any personality at all, with Retty being fairly bumbling and daft, and Nim's initial hardness turning into reluctant hopefulness. Actually, that's very predictable. It's hardly up to the standards of the original space opera epic, but as a vehicle for quality blasting, it's about acceptable, and shall give thou a few hearty chuckles at least. To sum up, I shall end this voyage like I intend to end future editions, with a recommendation as to whether or not your humble self should pop out and buy this piece of physically manifested nostalgia. Hell yes, has to be my response. With this title going for less than a British gold-coloured coin, plus postal packaging of course, but that goes without saying, anyone who can play it should. Casual folk can switch it to easy or medium and enjoy a brief but satisfying experience at minimal cost, while more hardcore lads and lasses can pull the lever over to hard, and then muscle their way through the frustration to glorious victory. Getting all the little medals? Oh yeah, this thing had trophies a generation in advance for each level. On uber difficulty is plenty hard, but definitely not impossible. While you're all out of buying that, I highly recommend the sequel, Jedi Starfighter, which is basically the superior game. It costs marginally more, but it's worth it, people. Plus you can boast about owning the last worthwhile PS2 space shooter, what that's worth. My guesstimate is about 2 potatoes with a side order of turnip shavings. Now at this point, the review normally would have ended and some vaguely relevant piece of music I found and liked will have been stuck on at the end, along with whatever few people might have had a bit to do with helping me. But I'm talking to you, YouTube / game trailers / general internet person who bothered to put up with this much of the video. I salute the sir / madam / non-generic thing without gender. I'm ad-libbing here, people. I don't have my script in front of me anymore. Be thankful for that. Anyway, you see, you could have been watching something more established, more generally known. I am an outsider. A nobody. No one knows me. I may be Trizon, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm awesome to everybody. I know I'm awesome. You probably do, because you've listened to this. Does anyone else? If you put up with me up to this point, despite saluting you, I also just generally thank you. I cannot possibly comprehend in words how much I need to thank you. You are my #1 favourite person on the internet now, okay? You're not quite up to the people I've met, but you know, they've got an unfair advantage. So, you're better in relativeness. Anyway, you go out there, you tell people that you like me, you tell people what they're missing by not listening to me. You go boast. And once I'm awesomely known, like I inevitably will be, I will be. I'm not denying it, I will be. You can say that you liked Trizon before anyone else did. You liked Trizon before he was cool. But you have to get it going. Alright there? Be the beginning of something epic. Be my #1 fan. And this is sounding increasingly like a desperate cry for help. So I'll probably stop it here. But this is my first review, and I felt I needed to do something special. I'm going to be making other ones like this. Pretty much guaranteed. Unless I suffer some sort of horrible throat infestation. Such as head crabs. Yep. So, my next plan was either going to be Zer the Enders, which is kind of third done. Wolverine's Revenge, which I won't shut up about, but can't quite finish yet. Colony Wars is an obvious candidate. That's my main candidates. I've got a load of others I'll eventually get around to, but those are the ones I've done most on. I genuinely want to get into this. I've got too much to say not to say it to people. This is a very long audio file at the end here. I'll be doing this in sections. This is by far the longest one. Perhaps it's because it's not rehearsed that it's gone on for longest. Anyway, I did this with good amount of effort. The writing is all my own. Had a few recommendations from people for improvements. Made a few natural spelling mistakes, but it's all my own work. Anyway, this is already into a second part of a video, so farewell, good fan. I implore you to spread the word, but even if you don't, I thank you for putting up with me for this long. Alright then. Live long and prosper, noble internet person. Trizon out.